of all, thank you, Bhutan Ecological Society, for bringing up this event titled Buddhist for Nature, and then also inviting the participant representative from Department of Forest and Park Services. And I also would like to extend my sincere gratitude to my director, Department of Forest, and my Chief Forest Protection and Enforcement Division for nominating me to be the presenter on this event. So my name is Kinga Norbu, and I work for Forest Protection and Enforcement Division, and particularly I look after the Forest Protection and Surveillance section since 2020. Now, to begin with, the topic I was assigned was on the status of poaching in Bhutan, and as well as how the Department of Forest is combating the illegal activities, especially poaching in the country. So before I embark on my presentation, as a Buddhist, unlike in other countries, we believe in we have a spiritual and cultural values that are ingrained in our minds since we are school going, and then until now we carry that. So as a Buddhist, we believe in these are the pictures that you will see everywhere in schools, in monasteries, religious institutions, even in private homes. So this image depicts the longevity, and in ecological terms, we take it as like coexistence and the interdependencies in as one system we cannot stand alone. So these talks about the integration of all the systems and then making the world a livable place in a harmonious way. And also, killing is considered as a sinful, and it equates to killing one's own parents. And also, Buddhists believe in karmic cycle. If you injure or kill or harm any living beings, the same thing will happen to you in your next life. So these are certain values that keep or refrain people from doing illegal activities, be it killing, harming, or poaching of species. And in the leadership, especially in conservation, we have our majesties, their majesties. So they are recognized in many events, like since 2005, His Majesty the Fourth King received the UNEP Champions of Earth Award, and similarly, the recent one is Blue Planet Award, which was awarded to His Majesty on the 14th of June 2022. So we thank His Majesties, their Majesties, for their continued guidance and the paving way for conservation, especially for Buddhist people. So on the biodiversity path, Bhutan is considered as the world's 10th most important biodiversity hotspot, and Bhutan has the highest forest cover in Asia, accounting up about 71% of the geographical area of Bhutan. So if you look at species diversity, in Bhutan, we have 103 tigers. Since last tiger survey, we have around over 2,500 plus golden langur, 46 species of rhododendron, 747 species of birds, and similarly, these are the species diversity that you can see on this PPT. So now, having said before, the spiritual values, also the diversity we have, yet Bhutan is not free from poaching. Both the transboundary poaching as well as the poaching happens within the country by our citizens. So if I now present you this status of the wildlife trade and poaching, on the mammal poaching in Bhutan. So if you look at, these are the species being poached since 2017 to 2021. And 2020 and 21, although Bhutan went through a series of national lockdown because of COVID-19, and if you look at the poaching data, it seems like people didn't stay in lockdown. The poaching was still rampantly happening. So if you look at the figures, especially the wild pigs, the Himalayan black deer, the sambar, muxed deer are the species being poached in large number, and even the tigers being poached almost annually. And if you look at, we had 8 incidences happen. And these are some of the evidences that we have encountered while apprehending or while we are on a patrol. So these are the images that happened in Bhutan. So the bottom left is the recent one. This just happened like few months back. And these are the musk deer, especially which happened in the higher elevations, especially in the Jimidoji Wangchu National Park, the Wangchu Sentinel National Park. And these are some of these, different species being poached. So these are being encountered while we are on patrolling. And even these reptiles, the herpetofaunus also happens. And on the illegal fishing part, similarly with the mammals poaching, if you look at fishing, the brown trout being the one of these species being harvested, illegally fished, followed by snow trout. So these, if you look at the brown trout, is near threatened species, and the species being poached is also very high, particularly for brown trout species. So similarly with the other one, the mammal poaching, especially during the national lockdown, these species were happening. So reason could be maybe the availability of meat in Bhutan because of the national lockdown, as well as the international border being sealed. The availability of meat or fish in the country might be low, but there's no in-depth study being conducted. But if you look at incidences being encountered, even during the lockdown, the species being poached are high. Or the other reason could be aggravated by high price being fetched per kilo of meat or fishes. So maybe unavailability could be one reason. Otherwise, the high price could be another reason. So even during the lockdowns, these things happened much higher than when we didn't have lockdowns. These are some of the species, again, which we have encountered during our patrolling, law enforcement patrolling or monitoring of species. So now when it comes to illegal logging, so over almost 4,000 illegal logging happened since 2017 till 2021 December. And again, the number in 2020 and 2021, when national went through series of COVID lockdown, the number still remained high. So similarly, these are the pictures that when we go for patrolling, we have encountered the pictures. Some of these pictures are from cross-border, across the borders, the people coming, intruding into Bhutanese soil and then carrying out illegal logging, especially for high-priced species like sal, tick. These species are being harvested more in number, especially the southern border. Now, if you look at like office-wise, then the Department of Forest looked at which offices are having more number of fishing or illegal poaching or timber harvesting happening. So Wangdi Division, Tashigang Division, Monga Division, these are the offices had encountered high in illegal fishing. And similarly, for poaching, the JDNB, Fifth Wildlife Sanctuary, and Wangdi Division, Tashigang Division offices are leading in this number. So when we look at this illustration, it gives us like how we actually, this information would help in decision support, especially like deploying human resources, deploying other resources. So this will help in actually which offices to be manned with more patrolling team. And similar for illegal logging, the Wangdi Division and Paro Division, Gedu Division, these are the divisions. And Fifth Wildlife Sanctuary, which are in the southern border, is facing more challenges by the intruders from the Indians, especially the Indians. So if you look at now, we also looked at, like in Bhutan, we have two management regions, particularly looked at by division, territorial forest division, and then also the protected area system. So if you look at how things are actually happening between these two offices, when it comes to poaching, there is no much difference whether it is in protected area or territorial division. But when it comes to illegal fishing and illegal logging, so more is happening in the Federal Forest Division. So this also again gives us an idea of which offices for what type of resource deployment, particularly looking at the species being brought under illegal activities. So it will also help the department to gear up in combating the illegal activities. So on the second part of the presentation, it will be more on the how Department of Forest is combating these activities. So firstly, we have strong and legal and political support. So that is, again, like unlike in other nations, we have constitutional mandate of maintaining 60% of forest cover at all times. And as laid out in the Constitution, the government shall protect, conserve, and improve the present environment and safeguard its biodiversity and prevent pollution and ecological degradation, secure ecological balance, sustainable development while promoting justifiable economic and social development, and ensure safe and healthy environment. So these are certain sections of the clause laid out in the Constitution that actually helps both the governments and politics to come up with a rule or regulation or act or guidelines that would actually enable protection and conservation of species in the country. And also, this constitutional mandate is being aided by the middle part development philosophy of gross national happiness. So among the 4 pillars, environmental conservation is one strong pillar that the gross national happiness pillars, so which actually help the entire citizen or making the entire population understand why the environmental conservation is important. So followed by, we have like Forest and Nature Conservation Act 1995, which is currently being tabled in the recent summer session of the Parliament, which will be the new act, revised act. And we also have like Bhutan Forest Policy, Bhutan Forest and Nature Conservation Rule, Environmental Act, the Biodiversity Act. So these are the act actually being drafted or formulated in accordance to the Constitution and the JNH pillar, also the sustainable development pillars, that actually how the forestry laws and rules should be aligned accordingly. So we now also have a strong legal and political support, especially as per the Penal Code of Bhutan 2011. It has been amended in 2011 that the scheduled species in Bhutan, as per the Forest and Nature Conservation Act 1995, these are some of these species. If poaching or illegal activities pertaining to this species happens, then the Royal Court of Justice, the Supreme Court, has already issued a notification saying that these species illegal activities will be dealt as a 4th-degree felony. So it is equated as a criminal offenses, and the section 490 and 499 particularly deals on the scheduled species of as laid out in the Forest and Nature Conservation Act 1995. And these are some of the international treaties and parties that Bhutan is party to. So this also helps in like landscape management, the sharing of information, and then coming up with the landscape level species conservation plans, especially like the Trans-Manas landscape conservation. We have a project called TRUMCA, which is a Indo-Bhutan kind of friendship conservation program. So such things actually have helped in combating forest and wildlife crime even at the regional landscape. And then for the Department of Forest and Park Service, we have strategies, SOPs, and protocols. The important one is this SOP for monitoring illegal activities. So that actually deals with the standardized. It standardizes the interpretation of Forest and Nature Conservation Rule. It eases in identifying offenses, but it is a handy document that it's handy, and it also provides a checklist of documents required if the species being poached, or if it is in transit, then how do we actually identify its illegal transit or not. And similarly, we also have a national zero poaching strategy, so that actually looks at 6 pillars, how the poaching in Bhutan, so in terms with the international, it is also aligned with international how international way of comparing the illegal poaching or any illegal activities in the forest and wildlife. So it looks at 6 pillars, assessing the current situation, this is already happening, and then the data, we already have available data, how this is being assessed, and the use of available effort, tools and technologies such as the smart tools that we have for monitoring of illegal activities in the country and improve institutional capacity. Here we also talk about like SAVAN in the Southeast Asia Enforcement Network. Within Bhutan, we also have a Forest and Wildlife Control Committee, which constitute different officers such as the police, the army, RBA, Royal Bhutan Army. We have people from Royal Court of Justice, the Revenue and Customs people. So different agencies are actually involved in managing, intercepting, and also the prosecuting of forest and wildlife crime. So this is one document that also helps in combating forest and wildlife crime. And the recent one is we now have a National Smart Implementation Protocol 2020, so which is now being revised to National Smart Implementation Protocol 2021 recently. So SMART is a special monitoring, analysis, and reporting. This is a handheld device that actually records all the forestry and wildlife conservation deliveries that Department of Forestry shoulder. So these are certain documents that actually help in keeping poaching at bay, actually. So now, having these documents, what Department of Forestry is doing is regular and intelligence poaching that we are conducting. If you look at the map, Department of Forest has carried out like over almost 25,000 patrols in 2 years, 2020 to 2022. And if you look at the distance for Department of Forest traveled carrying out poaching and anti-poaching patrols, over 1.7 million kilometers has been traveled to Bhutan, covering entire Bhutan in the effort of combating poaching and illegal activities in the forest. And if you look at patrol effort being carried out, for instance, for government to citizen services, law enforcement, for research. So if you look at law enforcement, especially on the part of monitoring and patrolling, almost 10,000 patrols has been carried out in 2 years by Department of Forest. So had there been no poaching incidences happening in Bhutan, then these efforts actually can be diverted to citizens services and also for research component. And these are, I mean, the patrol type of patrol that Bhutan and the Department of Forest we do is through vehicle patrol, foot patrol, and boat patrol. So these are the logistics actually that the cost involved in doing patrolling. So had there been no poaching, so these actually costs can be substantiated to other fruitful activities such as research and government to citizen services. When we talk about patrolling or the monitoring of illegal activities, it doesn't come free. So it indulges both logistic, human resources. There are costs involved for purchasing gear, field gear. So it comes with challenge, and be it in the southern border, or be it in the snow. So the forest people, we are always conducting sometimes the ad hoc patrolling, sometimes intelligence-based patrolling. So, but then this patrolling actually doesn't come that free. So these are some of the images that forest people are involved in carrying out patrolling and how challenging this thing actually happened. So these are the incidents data of last 2 years where the illegal fishing, poaching, these are spatial information. So based on this information, we have now carried, for the purpose of decision support, we have carried out national poaching hotspots. So the red areas are the poaching hotspots, especially in the northern, the musk deer happens. So in the central part, more of tigers happen. So if we now come up with a strategy to combat poaching, so we at least now have information or data being translated into hotspots. So these hotspots actually helps in deploying resources, both human. Also, it also helps in the number of staffs required for patrolling. So if one division, division A has a staff shortage, then based on this information is again tagged with the special temporal reference of that particular incident. So these actually help in deploying the forestry staff for patrolling, the which season, for what species, which areas to be identified. So similarly, actually these are the covariates that has been used for carrying out these hotspots. So if you look at, so land cover is one important variable that plays a role in poaching. And also for illegal fishing, these are the areas. So similarly for the mammal poaching hotspot, illegal hotspot or fishing, we can also apply the same logic in how do we actually deploy resources. And this is illegal logging hotspots. So for logging hotspots also, if you look at what are the drivers of logging, one is the road, the settlement, even during the high rainfall season, maybe when forestry people might, the intensity of patrolling might go down, but then there is an increased intensity of like people coming for carrying out illegal logging. So we can look out from different angles how these things are related. So these are variables that actually influence logging, illegal logging in Bhutan. So this is a human wildlife conflict hotspots where sometimes retaliatory killings are happening. So based on such hotspots, it actually helps now department in taking the better, scientific way of dealing with this kind of illegal activities, combating illegal activities, and for decision support. So these are now in 2 years, the Department of Forest has mapped out almost all the, especially the wildlife habitat, importantly the solids and the perennial water holes. So water holes are the area where actually animals come for drinking water, and then the poachers, they follow it. So these are the areas that we actually need to be identified and then guarded and carry out regular patrolling. So these, now with this information, we can also use this for like hotspot analysis, for relationship studies, the species distribution and the poaching and habitat distribution. So these are the combination of all this information can give you a reliable hotspots in Bhutan. And then how do we actually manage these hotspots? So it also will help in strategic planning of these particular hotspots areas. So now the challenges. So poaching, or be it any illegal activities happening in forests, are organized crime. Most poaching are the one that are most organized one. Yet it is difficult to intercept, and it's very difficult to break the chain due to absolute secretive in nature. And these species such as like tiger, leopard, and clouded leopard, the rhino horn, elephant tucks, these species have high demand in the market as well as fetches high price. So people take it as a lucrative business. And then the other one is the porous border, providing easy access and easy transit of wildlife parts and product. And we also require a strong. Currently, we do not have adequate support, although the support is being strengthened. Support amongst the law enforcement agency to prevent, detect, investigate, and prosecution forest and wildlife crime, because it's not a standalone business actually. So in order to, for instance, if a tiger is being poached, then these are the agents, like law enforcement agents in the countries. Sometimes the cases may be intercepted by police at the police checkposts, by revenue and custom at the airport or in the border checkpost. And then case comes to forest, then since it is being the shuttle-on species, it is equated as a criminal offense. Then it goes to Office of Attorney General for prosecution, and then finally it goes to the Royal Court of Justice for the prosecution as well as the other proceedings that court might require. So there are involvement of so many organizations in the country. So the collaboration, the cooperation among these species is very important and inevitable. And other struggle collaboration like religious body as tagged with this event, like Buddhist for religion. We can also use the Buddhist, especially the monastic bodies, the monks in the villages, in the communities, in advocating why it is sinful. Killing is a sin, or injuring a species is a sin. And then the same statement said by the forester or the lay people has a different weight as compared to the same statement being pronounced by the religious body. And also, the other challenge is there is a threat to the patrolling team, especially the forest people who are doing patrolling. Sometimes they are being encountered by armed poachers and the retaliators. So these are certain issues that actually we need to sort it out. And then if these things work, at least, though we cannot stop, but then we can bring down the number of poaching incidences. And in the effort of conservation, especially in Bhutan, we would like to thank our conservation partners, both on and offshore, for their continued support financially, sometimes in kind, and also sometimes through human resources, through expertise that we bring in. And together we pledge to conserve our natural heritage and environment at large. So without conservation partners, the donors, so Forest Department alone cannot bring down the poaching incidences. So for that matter, even through the support of donors, we get lots of patrolling equipments, even the field gear. So these are certain important things that Department of Forest being blessed with the help of the conservation donor. So lastly, thank you and Karinche for the event and also for taking on board the Forest Department. Thank you so much.